No, mate, don't worry. Please don't threaten us.
I'm not threatening.
No.
Right.
How many pills is that?
Don't tell me the now, because I've not got a camera running.
50 for 25 quid.
What's your name again?
Isn't that quite a lot of tablets to take?
What's happening there? That's a lot. Don't tell me my fucking message.
My name's Alpha. And I take drugs.
What are you addicted to? We've all got our poison. Sugar, caffeine, fat, liquor, cocaine, heroin, nicotine, pornography, the bookies. We're addicted to everything. Glasgow, once the second city of the Great British Empire. Glasgow is also a hard place. Despite a relative lack of gun violence, Glasgow is still one of the most violent cities in the world. Unemployment, poverty, homelessness, and addiction have plagued the city for decades now, worsening year on year. There are literally junkies everywhere, doing little to explode the myths that accrued to the city in the wake of Trainspotting. In winter 2018, a group of college students were tasked to produce a documentary about addiction. Congratulations, good watching. Calling themselves Team Friday Rehab, the group spoke with experts in social media, sugar and caffeine, alcohol, and, most revealingly, heroin. This is what happened next. Social media. We all use it, we all love it, we all hate it.
As the virtual world becomes more entwined with the real person world, I think more things will happen, more addiction behaviours will occur. For the younger generation, it would be a way that they communicate probably the most than picking up the phone or going round to someone's house. It's all online. And then I suppose for kids as well, it's not just a 9 to 3 world. It's during dinner, it's after dinner, it's bedtime, it's waking up in the morning, and they're experiencing that same stuff. And there's the peer pressure as well of those young children, those young adults, to have the best picture, to have the glossiest hair, to have the biggest muscles, I suppose you could say, or have the best dance trick. So that they can showcase themselves to the children and teenagers in their class. So that probably will have an impact in their kind of later life and in their formative years of finding who their tribe is and finding their identity. They're doing that in a kind of virtual sense rather than doing it in a face-to-face capacity as well, which may lead to self-esteem, confidence issues as they get older, and perhaps kind of insecurity of that. And they may use social media again to seek further, get the likes and get the hearts and all that, to get the comments, rather than looking inward for that sense of self. They've kind of put it outwards.
Caffeine. We love our plant-based drugs. Stimulants like caffeine have been part of the human diet for millennia.
What do you think causes addictions?
Scientifically, I would say it's dopamine that releases in people's brains, so people become addicted to feeling good. So anything that makes people feel good, whether that be caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, substance abuse, get an emotional high from it. So that's what makes them want to do it again. Addiction is it's a common used word that people just flippantly use. You could potentially, I say quite a lot to my wee boy about, like, you're on that phone all the time. You're on that phone all the time. I'm not maybe using the word like you're addicted to using that phone, but what I'm saying to him is you spend quite a lot of time on your phone, and you can see it across the whole of society where people are like detached from what's really going on in their life. Now addiction's a bit like that. It's like it's a bit of a smoke screen for people. It helps people create an environment which they can feel secure and safe in, rather than having to look beyond themselves, look at the bigger picture and what's going on. So lots of things within our society are set up that way to help people to be distracted from what's really going on in their life or what's really going on in the wider circle.
I'm Kelsey. I'm Rosie. Hi.
Right, hello, nice to
meet you.
meet you.
For the Glasgow Wings team.
The Glasgow Wings team, so tell us about that.
So it's basically a student job, and it's basically our job to find people who might need a bit of energy and go and give them a can just to give them a wee boost for the rest of their day. That's pretty much what we're here to do.
What are the physiological effects of exceeding your recommended daily caffeine intake?
I'm not too sure, but if
Do
we're
you
talking
feel-
about going over the limit,
Yes.
then a few months ago, oh no, it was actually like last year or something, I just always remember this, we went into this shop to like sample a guy that was working, and like we just did our usual spiel like, hi, we're out from Red Bull team, would you like a can of Red Bull? And he was like, no, he was like, that stuff put me in hospital. And we were like, how did it put you in hospital? And he was like, well, I was having 15 a day, and basically his kidneys just kind of
Bloody
gave
hell.
way. But
It's an extreme version.
it was an extreme version, but like at the same time, everything in moderation, and if you're going to take anything
Yeah,
to
15
that,
of anything a day,
15
that's
of
probably
anything,
not going to be
exactly.
amazing for you.
Yeah, exactly.
I think everything in moderation. Again, personal choice, being safe with what you're doing. Tea just has as much caffeine in it as what coffee does. But we live in Britain, we're renowned for tea drinking, but there's not a lot of publicity based around about, oh, you shouldn't drink so much tea. I think it's just about raising awareness of that stuff, and moderation is the key for everybody. If people do things, and as long as they know the damaging impacts and lasting impacts that it can have on them, then let people make their own choices.
Glasgow has always had a reputation for drink. Even today, a casual stroll through the city is a stroll through a long, troubled relationship with alcohol.
David Barber, I'm an alcohol brief intervention practitioner, and I work with an alcohol charity in Glasgow, and I'm also a recovering alcoholic myself.
So, in your opinion, what could be sort of the metaphorical spark, if you will, that could light the fire of this dependency? Is it mental health? Could it be a traumatic event? Or could it just kind of be the underage drinkers moving into adulthood to sort of try to keep up with their friends, maybe?
All three, actually. I mean, so mental health, it's a kind of chicken and egg thing. What comes first, mental health problems or alcohol misuse? Does that lead to mental health problems? And it's kind of both. So people with mental health problems are more likely to drink excessively and to use alcohol to cope, or to use any drug, in fact, or any kind of coping mechanism, and have addictive type behaviours, because it's about trying to cope with the feelings that they're having. Alcohol itself is a depressant. The way that it interacts with the brain is that it boosts the production of a chemical called GABA, which then makes you feel more relaxed and happy and chilled, and also blocks the production of something called glutamate, which would normally regulate that kind of mood. So that when you then stop drinking alcohol, the brain detects this imbalance and tries to overcompensate by like hyper-producing glutamate, which is why you then start feeling more anxious, and what they call the fear comes in the next day. So that's what that is. It's that function in the brain. If that's repeated over a long time and regularly repeated, then that can sort of set up a permanent state in the brain where depression and anxiety can, because of your drinking, or if you already had a pre-existing mental health condition, can be worsened because of your drinking. In terms of traumatic events or trauma at any stage in life obviously can then have mental health implications and cause people to abuse substances or become dependent or have addictive behaviours. Not just on substances, people can seek solace in kind of like comfort eating or sex or different other things to try and give them a boost of self-esteem or validation and things like that. As I say, I'm a recovering alcoholic myself. I was a binge drinking alcoholic, which everyone thinks that alcoholic means a daily drinker whose life's all falling apart or who sleeps in park benches and stuff. But I was looked like anyone else, going out on the weekends and then slightly more in the middle of weeks. So that's an interesting just thing to note for a start, that an alcoholic isn't just one type of drinker. But yes, mainly I get a lot out of doing this because it makes me feel like I can help other people avoid getting to the point that I got to, because it's not pleasant when you get there, and usually you've got a whole list of car crashes and disasters in your life, and lost time and lost money and lost potential, that if anyone could avoid that, I would strongly recommend that they do. not that I necessarily always believe that people listen, because I sort of tend to, and I think most people would tend to find that people only learn from their own mistakes, not anybody else's. But there's a saying at Alcoholics Anonymous that people talk about. They say, I've made your mistakes for you, so I'm telling you this so you don't have to make them if you don't want to.
So, like, what was the most common addiction?
Heroin. Oh, heroin. If you were to, in the general public, the three common addictions are cigarette smoking, alcohol, over-the-counter medicines, then it's the illicit ones. Of the illicit ones, the biggest one is heroin.
So, what other types of addictions would you see?
The whole lot. We basically, probably with the exception of gambling. So alcohol, drugs, and in drugs that was opiates, opioids, and also stimulants, cocaine. The average heroin that people can use is between about 16% to about 32%. Below 16% is usually just nonsense and cut with all sorts of terrible stuff. And above 36% purity, it becomes too potent for most people. I don't want to glorify and dramatise heroin, but there's many ways in popular literature it's been described. There's the depiction in Trainspotting is a classic example of it. And if you imagine the situation just the seconds before you're due to fall asleep, and that pleasant sensation of warmth and well-being, right, which we all get just slowly before you fall asleep. But imagine never quite fall asleep, you're suspended there for about 2.5 to 3 hours. That's quite a pleasant day-glow feeling to be in.
And are they conscious when they're sort of nodding?
Oh yes, you can come back in quite rapidly. You can even hold a kind of conversation to a certain extent. Depends of course how much you're taking. But roughly 3.5 hours or 4 hours of that. That's quite a pleasant way to blow out things, feelings, traumas, upsets, whatever. It's a pleasant place to be, you know. Then you come out of it and you rapidly withdraw. So
what are the sort of effects of withdrawal?
Well, your whole body's been numbed. So neuroreceptors have been very active in numbing down pain. So the backlash from that as a system, as a heroin withdraws from the body, is that the slightest pain, you've been constipated for ages, and there is nothing worse on God's earth than severe constipation reversing itself. I'll leave it to your imagination and figure out what that's like. It's almost like dysentery in many ways, that is. But the slightest pain from the soles of your feet, the backs of your arms, everything is manifested 100 times. It's quite horrific. It's a short period of time it lasts for. It doesn't last for days, unlike Trainspotting. It does last. It's intense. And the fear of it often prevents people from actually coming off heroin. It's for a short period it's quite severe. And the system basically is waking up. All the alertness of the system is beginning to wake up again.
I'll tell you what, seen the police station.
Yeah.
When you get to jail, you know it 2 days, you're lying there in your rage state.
How do you feel?
Shit's flying out you.
The water.
You're tripping, you're
You
hallucinating,
leave me
as
lying
you're hallucinating.
like a pig.
So I'm saying 2 days, some people say, right,
There's no got a hope in hell.
see doctors will tell you a day's grace. A day's grace means you'll carry on a day, you'll be okay. Bullshit. And that for a person, for my heart,
For a straight person,
right, for my fucking heart.
So looking.
Now, unfortunately, there's the physical waking up. There's also the mental waking up. So half the battle with heroin is not so much coming off the heroin, it's keeping people off it.
So it's usually an underlying issue that causes addiction.
There are people who are there are people who began recreationally and getting over their heads. Okay. And we mustn't forget it is an addictive drug. It's a physically addictive drug. So you can get out your head, and when you start off as recreational, you can become addicted to it. A lot of people don't have any purpose. They've got a lot of bad things happen in their lives. It could be abuse, it could be a history of abuse, it could be a lot of things happening in their life, and they find this as a substitute, as a way of blotting that out. I have to qualify that and say that we still don't know why individual A, coming from an abusive family, takes heroin, and then individual B leaves that family and perhaps does something else but never gets involved in substance abuse. We simply don't know why that is. You're dealing with a whole complex of measures.
There's more external factors.
Far more. So you can never treat the drug on its own. It's cigarettes, it's alcohol. And any therapeutic intervention has to be based on where are you located, what are you doing, what are you bringing to this, What's your baggage, as it were? What's your history? And why you want to come off? And what do you want to do when you come off? And that has to be treated.
I was using opiates. I've been using heroin when I was like 18, 19.
18, okay.
No, didn't touch heroin at that age.
Okay. What age did
I
you?
think the hydrocodone that
Okay.
at that age.
Yeah.
Just starting.
I wish I had my medication
But
where it was weak. I wasn't
today,
my back.
now I'm 44, so I say last, well, say it's my boy, 18, 19 years on
This year,
methadone.
So what about the methadone programs?
Great. I'm a methadone partisan. The whole point behind methadone is an opioid antagonist. The best way to describe it is, imagine a seawall, and the sea behind it is heroin. Well, methadone's the wall that blocks the heroin get to the neuroreceptors. That's simply what it does. It also gives you a mild buzz, similar to feeling of heroin.
A day or two without methadone is so hard. So hard.
Alright.
I wish back in the day I did use my heroin, right, within a couple of days, with the hydrocodone, which I did ask my doctor, right? The reason why I put on the hydrocodone, they want to on methadone. See if my doctor would say, right, I'll put you on the hydrocodone and no methadone, I'd be drug free just now. Right? That's all I can say to you. Right? And it's a bit of politeness here, right? So I'd be fucking drug free then now. If my doctor would have put me on the hydrocodone for 3 weeks, I'd have been brand new. Right?
What would you say is the most effective treatment for opioid addicts?
I think somebody has to be ready to come off. There's lots of ways of coming off abstinence, going to rehab. The most effective, I think research has proven time and time again, is the application of methadone with a whole battery of interventions that go with it, not in isolation. And where methadone becomes stigmatised, and quite rightly so, is when it's done in isolation or inappropriately. But addiction is a very complex phenomenon, and there are many forms of addiction. And no one has a silver bullet as to how to actually deal with it. I think the best way to deal with it is with empathy, that sympathy, TLC, and to understand that in some circumstances I can be like that as well.